What will happen in July 2025? A question that echoes in the minds of many who are seeking certainty, direction, or hope. But the real question is not about what will happen outside of you. The true question is, are you prepared for what must begin within you? There are those who wait for signs in the sky, global shifts, changes in energy, or sudden miracles that alter the course of their life. And then there are those who understand that all events, all external changes, are only mirrors reflecting the internal world. The wisest do not look outside to prepare. They look within, because that is where the true event is taking place. Every month, every day, every breath offers you a choice to remain asleep or to wake up, to live passively or to participate with full awareness. July 2025 will bring certain events, but if you are waiting for the calendar to bless you, you have misunderstood the entire nature of life. The outer events may shake the surface of your reality, but nothing can transform you if you are not ready to be transformed from the inside. The most powerful event coming in July is not found in the stars, in the news, or in predictions. It is the ignition of a deep flame within your own consciousness. And that ignition does not come by accident. It comes through deliberate action. To understand this, imagine a seed buried in the ground. Rain may fall, the sun may shine, but the seed will only sprout if it has been prepared, nurtured, and made ready. Similarly, the universe may pour opportunities and challenges into your life, but unless your inner soil is fertile, through discipline, awareness, and consistency, you will not grow. You will remain buried under your own distractions, fears, and expectations. So before asking what is coming in July, ask yourself what you are doing now. Because July is not an external event. It is a mirror that will reflect who you already are. People talk about transformation as if it is something that just happens. They wait for a shift, for energy to align, for something or someone to come and awaken them. But the truth is this: no one can awaken you but yourself. No teacher, no guru, no sacred text can walk your path for you. And July 2025 will not be magical unless you are magical within. The shift begins when you decide to take responsibility for your own inner state. That means no longer blaming circumstances, no longer waiting for the perfect moment, no longer postponing your awakening to a date on the calendar. You become the calendar. You become the moment. You become the event. The first event, and the only one that matters, is your internal preparation. Every breath you take is training. Every thought you think is a blueprint. Every action you repeat is a ritual. The way you wake up in the morning, the way you speak to yourself in silence, the way you treat others when no one is watching, this is your true preparation. And the universe will always respond, not to your words, but to your frequency. The inner frequency you hold is what either invites or repels change. You cannot fake it. You cannot trick the cosmos. You must become the very thing you seek. There are people who will enter July with hope and leave it with disappointment. Not because July failed them, but because they carried with them the same habits, the same chaos, and the same lack of discipline they had the month before. You see, time does not heal or change anything. Time only reveals. And July will reveal whether you have truly done the work. You do not receive a new destiny by standing still. You create it through daily inner effort. The stillness, the silence, the sweat, the struggle. These are the invisible bricks with which you build your future. To live with awareness is to train your mind to respond, not react. When something happens in your life, how do you meet it? With resistance or with curiosity? With fear or with presence? If you have not trained your internal system to remain calm in chaos, you will be swept away every time a storm appears. And storms will come. But if your roots are deep, if your breath is steady, if your attention is anchored in the present, then you will not be shaken. July may bring wind, but it cannot uproot a tree that has grown in patience. The mind is like a wild horse. It must be trained daily, gently but firmly. You cannot expect it to obey in moments of crisis if you have allowed it to run wild in moments of peace. This is why the Shaolin monks wake before the sun, not because they need to, but because they understand the importance of preparing the mind before the world begins. They understand that the external world is only as chaotic as the internal one, and so they do not wait for the world to be quiet. They become the quiet. Your preparation for July does not begin in July. It begins now. It begins in the way you treat this very moment. It begins in how you breathe as you listen to these words. It begins in whether you take these teachings as inspiration or as action. Because inspiration fades, but discipline, once built, becomes a fire that does not go out. That fire is what you will need in July, not because July is dangerous, but because July is sacred. Sacred months demand sacred effort, and sacred effort is built on sacred habits. Look around you. Most people are sleeping with their eyes open. They scroll, they chase, they distract themselves from the very life they claim to want. They hope that something will wake them up. But the awakened ones do not wait for shock or pain. They wake themselves up. Every morning, every hour, every moment, they make a vow to themselves, not to be perfect, but to be present. And presence is what reveals the beauty and mystery of this existence. Do not chase events. Do not ask what will happen. Ask instead, how clear is my mind? How steady is my breath? How honest is my heart? These are the real indicators of your readiness. Because when an event comes, whether it is a challenge or a blessing, it is too late to train. The training must already build the strength, the awareness, the inner silence required to meet the moment fully. And that is something no one can give you. You must earn it through effort. There is a wisdom that cannot be spoken. It can only be experienced. And that wisdom is waiting for you in July. But you must first create the space within yourself to receive it. You must clear the noise, release the old stories, purify your focus. The mind must become a bowl, empty and ready. If it is already full of opinions, fears and assumptions, nothing new can enter. This is why the path is not about adding more. It is about letting go. Letting go of what you think you know. Letting go of what you think you need. And in that letting go, something powerful arises. Presence. In the temple we say that the true warrior is not one who fights others, but one who conquers the mind. Because when the mind is conquered, everything else becomes simple. You stop being tossed by emotion. You stop needing validation. You stop fearing change. And then, when July comes, you are not caught off guard. You are prepared. Not because you predicted the future, but because you prepared yourself for any future. This is what it means to become the event. To live with such intentionality, such depth, that your very presence changes the energy of a room. That your words carry weight because they are rooted in silence. That your actions ripple far beyond what you can see. You no longer need to wait for signs because you become the sign. You no longer need to follow shifts because you are the shift. And so, July 2025 is coming. But you must ask yourself, what are you becoming? What are you doing today that aligns with the version of you who is ready to meet that moment? Are you disciplined in your rituals? Are you sincere in your self-reflection? Are you committed to your growth not only when it is easy, but especially when it is difficult? This is the preparation that no one sees. The work done in silence, the sacrifices made in solitude, the small, consistent choices that build character. And character is what will carry you when events come. Not motivation, not hype, not temporary excitement, but a quiet, unshakable strength born of discipline. Events come and go. So do not be distracted by dates. Do not obsess over predictions. Look inward. Sit with yourself. Ask the questions you have been avoiding. And listen, truly listen. Not to the noise of the world, but to the wisdom that whispers from within. Because all great events, whether external or internal, are born first in awareness. And when you walk into July with awareness, with preparation, with peace, you will not be surprised by what comes. You will simply meet it, breathe through it, learn from it, and grow beyond it. Everyone wants change. Everyone desires peace, strength, abundance, love, clarity. But very few are willing to pay the price for such things. July 2025 will not ask what you wish for. It will ask what you've trained for. Desire is like a spark. It comes easily, quickly, and often fades just as fast. But discipline is the fire that keeps burning through cold nights and uncertain days. There is no transformation without it, there is no awakening without it, and there will be no lasting reward in July without discipline leading the way. Many people walk into each new month filled with excitement, fueled by a temporary surge of inspiration. They write goals, they make promises, they say this will be my breakthrough, and they repeat this ritual over and over. But when adversity shows up, when nothing changes after a few days, when the emotion begins to settle, they stop. They slip back into comfort, into distraction, into delay. What they fail to understand is that July 2025 will test the truth of your preparation, not the intensity of your motivation. And truth is revealed only through action. Discipline is not about how loud your goals are, it is about how quiet your consistency is. It is the practice of doing what is necessary even when it is not exciting, even when no one applauds you, even when it seems like nothing is happening. In the monastery, the students do not train only when they feel inspired. They train every day, in the cold, in the dark, with bruises, in silence. Why? Because they understand that the body must be conditioned for hardship and the mind must be conditioned for chaos. If you are not consistent in peace, you will collapse in pressure. And July, while filled with possibilities, will bring pressure. This is the month where many will be confronted with the weight of their own choices. It will feel like a test, but it is not punishment. It is simply the echo of past decisions. For some, that echo will be filled with reward. For others, it will be a wake-up call. But either way, the universe is not against you. It is simply mirroring your frequency. It gives back what you give it. Multiply. So if you've been giving scattered focus, broken promises, and impulsive reactions, July will amplify that. But if you've been giving consistent action, mindfulness, and commitment, July will amplify that as well. Discipline means you do not rely on mood, you rely on principle. When your energy is low, you still move. When your emotions are turbulent, you still breathe. When your goals feel distant, you still show up. Because you are not moved by convenience, you are rooted in purpose. And this is what separates those who wish from those who walk. The ones who wish will always talk about what's coming. The ones who walk are already preparing, already building, already aligning themselves with the moment. The truth is, most people don't need more information. They don't need more teachings. What they need is to apply what they already know. They need to stop consuming and start cultivating. The man who reads 1,000 books on self-mastery but fails to control his anger in a moment of challenge has not mastered anything. Knowledge without discipline is decoration. It is the illusion of progress. But knowledge with discipline becomes power. It becomes wisdom lived, not just spoken. In July, there will be moments where things do not go your way. There will be days where the plan unravels, where delays arise, where your emotions try to pull you away from your path. And in those moments, it will not be your desire that saves you, it will be your discipline. Desire fades in the face of resistance, but discipline rises. It is in the face of difficulty that the warrior's mind is revealed. And if you have trained for it, trained your attention, trained your habits, trained your reactions, then you will not break when the pressure comes. You will rise through it. People often say, I don't have the time. But the truth is, you have the same time as anyone else. What you lack is priority. What you lack is commitment. You must ask yourself honestly, what do I choose every day? Where do I place my energy? Because your life is not built by what you say you value. It is built by what you actually prioritize. If you say you want peace, but you wake up with chaos. If you say you want clarity, but you scroll endlessly. If you say you want strength, but you avoid discomfort, then your life will reflect that contradiction. Discipline removes contradiction. It aligns your actions with your intention. It brings unity between what you say and what you do. And that alignment, that harmony, is what opens the path forward. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be consistent. You only need to return to the path each time you drift. Even the monk's mind drifts, but he has trained it to return without judgment, without delay. He does not say, I failed. He simply breathes and begins again. That is the essence of true discipline. July 2025 may feel like a gate for many, a gate between what was and what could be. And that gate will not open by force. It will open for those who have prepared themselves to walk through it, not with entitlement, but with readiness. Not with noise, but with inner clarity. And that readiness is not something you buy or borrow. It is built daily. It is carved through action. It is polished through repetition. Every small discipline sharpens the key. Every choice, every meditation, every act of restraint, every silent vow, it all counts. And what you are building is not just a result. You are building yourself. The strongest discipline is not external, it is internal mastery. The ability to remain centered when things fall apart. The ability to stay committed when the emotions scream otherwise. The ability to act with wisdom even when fear is present. That is the mind of a true warrior. And it does not appear overnight. It is the result of inner construction that few ever see. Discipline is the bridge between desire and reality, between intention and transformation. Many will write their goals in July, but only the disciplined will live them. The others will repeat. Repeat excuses. Repeat cycles, repeat the same promises, waiting for a better mood or a more convenient moment. But the disciplined understand. The best moment is now, not when it's easy, not when it's clear, but when it's hard. Because to act when it's hard is what builds power, and that power is what changes lives. There is a kind of suffering that purifies, the suffering of repetition, the pain of practice, the strain of doing what you don't feel like doing. But doing it anyway because you are devoted to something deeper than comfort. That is the kind of effort that transforms. That is the path few take. And that is why their lives look different. Because they are not ruled by how they feel. They are ruled by what they value, by what they've chosen. That is true freedom. When you practice discipline, you begin to notice something strange. You begin to suffer less, because your mind becomes stronger, your energy becomes cleaner, your path becomes clearer. The more you train, the less you are shaken. The more you show up, the less you fear failure. The more you focus, the less you are distracted. And that inner strength becomes a silent power that radiates into everything you do, into your words, into your posture, into your decisions. You no longer need external motivation because you are moved by your own principles. And that is a rare place to live from. But it is possible, and it is necessary, especially in the months ahead. July will demand this level of focus. It will reward this level of presence. It will open for those who have lived in alignment with their highest self, not occasionally, but consistently. So prepare not just with vision, but with action. Wake up early if you must. Cut what drains you. Focus what empowers you. Eat with awareness. Move your body. Study what deepens your clarity. Speak less. Observe more. Protect your energy like it is sacred, because it is. Everything is training. Every moment is a test, and you are either becoming sharper or more scattered. The choice is always yours. The power of discipline is not in the grand gestures. It is in the unseen. In the hour you choose to meditate instead of scrolling. In the breath you take instead of reacting. In the walk you take instead of escaping. These moments look small, but they are not small. They are everything. They are the practice of mastery. And mastery is never sudden. It is earned in silence. July 2025 will not reward desire. It will reward devotion. It will not reward words. It will reward integrity. It will not reward those who shout. It will reward those who act. And those who have trained themselves in this way, who have walked with discipline as their guide, will not be surprised by what arrives. They will be ready, because they did not wait for the future to change them. They chose to become the change in advance. There is a shift happening, not just in the sky, not only in the energy of the collective, but in the very structure of how people are meant to live, perceive, and walk forward. As July 2025 approaches, the most sensitive individuals can already feel it, not in their minds, but in their bodies, in their breath, in their awareness of subtle changes. You must understand, not every shift arrives with thunder and lightning. Some come silently, like the dawn, quiet but undeniable. If you are too distracted, you will miss it. If you are too rigid, you will resist it. But if you are awake, even just slightly awake, you will feel that July holds something different, something sacred, something precise. This is not the type of change that comes to entertain you or to give you quick satisfaction. This is a change that asks something from you. It asks for maturity. It asks for clarity. It asks you to be honest about who you are and who you are not. And most importantly, it demands space. You cannot receive new energy while holding tightly to the old. July will not place treasures into full hands. It will place them only into hands that have been emptied of past pain, past identities, past attachments, past fears. To receive what is meant for you, you must first become empty. Not in the sense of lacking, but in the sense of being open. Empty of the noise that runs on repeat in your mind. Empty of the false narratives that keep you chained. Empty of the roles you've been performing that are no longer aligned with your truth. If you do not make space, life will do it for you. And when life does it, it often feels like a loss, but it is not a punishment. It is a preparation. The shift you are sensing is not about the world changing. It is about you being asked to rise into a new state of being. A deeper integrity, a more refined awareness. This means that people, situations, habits, even entire paths may begin to dissolve. Not because they were wrong, but because they were meant only for a previous version of you. When something no longer fits your inner vibration, it cannot remain. To cling to it is to suffer. To release it is to evolve. But evolution does not come without courage, because letting go of the familiar, even when it hurts, can feel terrifying. But you must understand, the pain of growth is always cleaner than the pain of stagnation. And the universe always supports those who walk in alignment, even if the first few steps feel uncertain. In the monastery, we are taught not to fear silence, because silence is the teacher that reveals the truth. Most people avoid silence because they are afraid of what they might hear. But if you do not learn to sit in silence, you will never hear the shift coming. You will never feel the invitation that life is whispering into your bones. And July 2025 will not scream, it will whisper. It will offer subtle opportunities, glimpses, nudges, synchronicities that guide you if you are humble and clear enough to receive them. A shift is internal before it becomes external. If you are waiting for your environment to change first, you will miss your moment. The world reflects back what you are vibrating. So before you ask for different outcomes, ask yourself, what energy am I carrying into each moment? Am I responding to life with trust or with resistance? With curiosity or with control, with fear or with presence? These are not small questions, these are sacred doorways. Because they determine whether you are resisting the shift or allowing it. Allowing the shift does not mean doing nothing, it means doing the right things. The aligned things. Sometimes that looks like resting. Sometimes it looks like releasing something you love. Sometimes it means standing your ground when everything tries to move you. Only you can know what is required of you. But your body knows, your breath knows, your silence knows. The deeper part of you is already aware of what needs to be done. Your job is not to understand it with logic. Your job is to honor it with action. There is a kind of weight that many are carrying right now. A weight of unresolved cycles, of dreams that were never theirs, of timelines that were created from fear instead of purpose. July offers a clean cut. But you must be willing to draw the line, to say, I will no longer betray myself. I will no longer say yes when I mean no. I will no longer entertain what dilutes my clarity. I will no longer hide behind distraction. And when you say it, not just with your mouth, but with your energy, life will respond. Because life always responds to clarity. But clarity is not something that arrives by chance. It must be cultivated. And the only way to cultivate clarity is through honesty. Radical honesty. The kind of honesty that strips away your image, your excuses, your stories. The kind of honesty that forces you to sit with yourself and admit, I've outgrown this. Or, I've been playing small. Or, I'm afraid to step forward. Only when you speak truth to yourself can the shift truly begin to shape you, because the truth is not always comfortable, but it is always liberating. This is why not everyone will embrace what July brings. Some will resist, some will run, some will try to bend the new energy to fit their old habits. And for them, the month will feel heavy. But for those who lean in, for those who release the need to control, for those who bow their heads and open their hearts, July will feel like alignment, like exhale, like arrival. Not because everything outside is perfect, but because something inside has finally come into harmony. Harmony does not mean the absence of conflict. It means that your inner compass is steady, even when the waves rise. It means that your soul is guiding your decisions, not your fear. It means that you are no longer chasing validation, but rooted in truth. And this root will be tested. You will be asked to stand in the face of uncertainty, to walk even when the path is unclear, to trust your inner voice above the noise of the world. That is what July demands. Not perfection, but presence. Not knowledge, but embodiment. This is a time to simplify, to let go of what drains, to return to what centers, to become quiet enough to hear the guidance that is always available. You do not need more from the world. You need less of what distracts you from yourself. This is the gift of the shift. It strips away the unnecessary so that only the essential remains. And the essential is not what you achieve. It is who you become. Become light. Become truth. Become disciplined in what you allow into your field. Become fierce in your protection of peace. Become humble in your pursuit of wisdom. Become devoted to your practice, even when no one sees it. Because the shift is not for those who perform. It is for those who prepare. There is a sacred intelligence in the way life moves. What leaves you now was never meant to stay. What you lose was never yours to keep. And what arrives was always waiting for you to become the version of yourself that could receive it. So be still. Be open. Be ready. This shift is not about speed. It is about alignment. Not how fast you move, but how true. Not how much you do, but how deeply you feel. Not how loud you are, but how sincere. The deepest movements often look invisible from the outside, but inside they rearrange everything. Inside, and when you begin to walk in this new alignment, you will notice the subtle signs. Clarity in conversations, peace in solitude, purpose in your pain, strength in your softness. This is how the universe confirms your path, not always through miracles, but through meaning, through the quiet reassurance that you are exactly where you are meant to be. So do not chase July. Prepare for it, not with force, but with surrender. Not by controlling what is to come, but by aligning with who you are becoming. This is the shift, and it is already here. There is an ancient truth hidden in plain sight. Before something manifests in the outer world, it is first formed in the unseen, in the silence, in the depth of your own being. And July 2025 is not merely a continuation of time, it is a portal, a sacred window, a bridge that connects the inner world with the outer reality. But this bridge is not open to everyone. It is open to those who understand how to meet the moment with alignment. And this alignment begins not with action, but with stillness. Not with motion, but with presence. In a world that constantly pulls you to do more, achieve more, prove more, it is easy to forget that real power is quiet. Real wisdom is patient. Real transformation comes not from frantic effort, but from refined attention. July will not respond to how loud you are. It will respond to how deeply attuned you are. To walk through this gateway is not about being ready in the way the world defines readiness. It is about being open, internally, energetically, spiritually. It is about creating the kind of stillness within you that allows you to hear the instructions that come from a place beyond intellect. You cannot fake alignment. You cannot pretend to be ready for what you have not built within yourself. The month ahead carries energies that are precise, not cruel, not punishing, but exact. They will reflect you back to yourself. If you are scattered, you will see scattering. If you are confused, you will meet confusion. But if you are grounded, you will be guided. If you are calm, you will receive clarity. And if you are aligned, the path will unfold, not without effort, but with a sense of natural flow. In the teachings I've received from my masters, one lesson repeats over and over again: the external world is not your master, it is your mirror. So if you chase it, it will run. But if you center yourself, the right things begin to arrive, not all at once, not always how you expect it, but always with perfect timing. And July is all about timing. It is about recognizing when to act, when to wait, when to release, and when to step forward with unwavering conviction. But this discernment does not come from thinking, it comes from deep listening. And to listen deeply, you must become still. You must become empty of noise, of judgment, of comparison. You must learn to sit in silence until the surface of your mind calms, like a lake without ripples. Only then can you see clearly. Only then can you move with precision. Precision is not the same as pressure. Precision comes from knowing. Pressure comes from fear. July will ask you to move with knowing. This knowing cannot be bought, borrowed, or imitated. It must be cultivated through practice. Practice in awareness. Practice in patience. Practice in presence. Most people are trying to force life into a shape. But July is not a time to force. It is a time to align. And alignment requires trust. Trust not in an external outcome, but in your own inner compass. If you are constantly doubting, constantly seeking validation, constantly chasing certainty, you will miss the quiet doorway that is opening before you. The doorway does not need to be pushed. It simply needs to be recognized. It does not respond to noise. It responds to sincerity. And if you are sincere, if your intentions are clean, your heart is open, your discipline is steady, then you will not need to ask whether it is your time. The signs will be unmistakable. The opportunities will arise, not because you chased them, but because you became a match for them. When the student becomes ready, the teaching appears. When the soul becomes aligned, the pathway opens. When the heart becomes quiet, the guidance becomes loud. This is the law. It is not mystical. It is structural. It is how energy moves, and July is governed by this deeper structure. If you wish to experience something new, you must become someone new, not by changing your name or your image or your words, but by changing your frequency. Frequency is not something abstract. It is felt in how you enter a room. It is heard in the silence between your words. It is reflected in your posture, your presence, your energy. And you cannot fake it. You cannot pretend to be grounded if you are not. You cannot pretend to be whole if you are still fragmented. The universe will not respond to your performance. It will respond to your vibration. So before you ask for anything in July, ask yourself, who am I becoming? This is the most important question of this portal. Not what you want, but who you are willing to become to receive it. Because the person you are now may not be capable of holding what your future self will carry. There must be a shedding, a surrender, a refinement. You cannot bring old patterns into a new season and expect peace. You cannot bring hesitation into a season that requires devotion. You cannot bring doubt into a doorway that opens only to trust. But this is not about punishment. It is about precision. The right door will not open for the wrong mindset, not because it is close to you, but because you are not yet aligned with its frequency. When your inner world shifts, the outer world responds instantly. You've seen this happen before, when something finally clicked, not because you forced it, but because you finally let go of resistance. That is what this time is calling for. Not more force, more clarity. Not more effort, more surrender. Not more control, more inner mastery. Mastery is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about showing up, even in fear, walking forward, even in uncertainty,